All right, so I was out exploring the countryside the other day, and I actually found this thing in a trash pile. So welcome to another episode of Crazy Dad's Garage. We're gonna see if we can take this thing apart and fix it up and get it looking pretty and working. I don't know if I can or not, but it should be a fun project anyway. I have no idea what brand it is. It's actually covered in chicken poop. I think it's been sitting in somebody's old chicken coop or tool shed or something. And so we are going to disassemble it, clean it up. Look in there, see, that's how bad it is. That's completely packed full of poop and everything. But I'm just gonna see if I can get it apart and get it fixed, just for the fun of it. Why not? All right, go in my antique tool collection. So I think the first thing that I'm gonna do is probably get the screws out here and just get the two halves apart. That's probably going to be my best starting point, but I'll come back to you when we get that far. Okay, my screws are out. I was playing around with it, and it actually turns, surprisingly enough. I don't know if we're going to find inside what that looks like, but here we go. Got the side loosened up. Oh, what's going to happen here? Oh, lovely. All right. Just looking here to see if anything looks too badly ruined so far. No, I really don't think it's been out in the weather like as much as I thought it had. Here might be a problem right here though. Those teeth I think are broken off, and this, yeah, that gear cannot engage them. That's what the problem is. Okay. Well, I don't know how I can fix that. I got to think about that one a little bit. Other than that, I think this thing is probably salvageable. So we'll go back and think on it and see what we can figure out. Okay, got a bunch of stuff disassembled here. Got this pulled out of the case. And really, all of it was pretty much just sitting in the case, so that's been pretty simple to that point. These, I've got the bearing balls pulled off the end of them, and the spacers and things like that, and all our brushes pulled apart in there. Really, I think this is our only problem. I think the thing was probably working until it wore that gear out. So I've had a couple ideas, but I'm going to finish getting this apart. I have to figure out how to get the chuck off of there, and normally you have to loosen the thing up, and there's a bolt down inside of it, and as rusty it is, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that yet, so I may have to just soak it in some rust remover and stuff. I got this bearing is I think rusted onto the shaft right there, so I'm going to have to figure out how to get it off. This one spins just fine. I'm going to also see if I can get, or what to do about the wires. I may have to splice them here because I want to get rid of this bad section of the cord. So I'll cut the cord off and run it up in there farther and probably splice the white wire and the black wire, and maybe even just give myself a splice onto that green one so I can retain that little fitting right there. But I'm going to pull that apart and see. Yeah, those come apart pretty good. The fan's probably built onto the thing, but then that'll allow me to slide the armature out of the, yeah, whatever, I forgot what those are called. But anyway, there's really not a lot of wear on the thing. The brushes were in good shape. This is in pretty good shape. So I think just a good cleaning is all we're going to have to do. I'm going to clean all that old grease out of there and get rid of the shavings that have come from that gear disintegrating. And I think that'll get us back where we're in business again. Obviously, we're going to have to clean up a lot of that corrosion and stuff, but for the most part, just a good cleaning is going to do it. But I'm probably going to go a little farther than that because I want to clean it up and probably polish the case back up and everything else to make it look like it's brand spanking new. Still haven't found the manufacturer for sure. Here's the tag off of it. So I don't know if it's made by Pro Hardware, if that was the brand name. It says Proven, but I wonder if that was Proven. So I'll have to do some research on that, but at least I've got model numbers and serial numbers and stuff like that. So that'll help. Yeah, anyway, there we go. We'll come do a few more of those disassembly pieces and we'll be back. There we go. We have that bearing off of the shaft, and it wasn't completely seized on it. By grabbing it with my pliers over here, I was able to break it loose and get it to come off, as well as this tension washer and that little shim washer there. And yeah, it boogered up the outside of it, but I don't know if it'll focus here. That's not hypercritical because the outside doesn't move. I'll clean that up with a file and it'll be just fine. But I'll have to clean the rust off of this and clean the inside of that out really good in order to get it where we want it. This is apart now. Just going to need to clean that up. My only big thing is still going to be the chuck, and I don't know, first I'm going to do a bunch of cleaning on it, and then I'm going to soak it really good with some penetrating oil, and then maybe I'll even have to give it a bath in my Evaporust rust remover. So there we go. We'll move on to the next steps from here. Okay, actually won that battle on two fronts here. I took the thing over to my wire wheel and got it derusted, and as I was fiddling around with it, it actually broke loose and came loose pretty easily. So I've got it oiled up. That's gone in there and gotten all the crud out of it, and now we got that to work. So this one, I talked about how the chucks are attached to the shaft down here. And there's 2 or 3 different ways. I've seen them with a screw down inside of here that you have to take out, possibly even a nut. But this one appears to be threaded onto that shaft. And I don't want to try holding this really in the vise. I break a tooth or something on it. And because it's working and because this bearing's turning freely, I'm just going to finish cleaning those up and re-oil them. So that they are completely clean, and then we won't have to worry about disassembling it. That'll be great. So that's going to be the game plan there. Next thing I'm going to do is try to get the armature cleaned up, and then the coil here in the switch. So we'll get those cleaned up. I'll get some of these pieces probably dropped in some carb cleaner for a while to get the grease off of them. Probably end up doing the same thing with this one. I'll have to be careful because I don't know if those bronze bushings will hold up in that carb cleaner, but I think they'll be okay for a quick bath in it. So that's where I'm going to go next. Probably going to just start cleaning the armature and the coil here. Here we go with some parts that have been cleaned up. In here, try to get most of the grease out of them. I still got to get to work now and do that. The biggest thing I've been challenged with is what do I do about the stripped gear. So I welded it up, and it's got a little bit of Dremel tool machine work done on it there. Remember, this is not something I'm trying to restore so that I can use it full bore. I just want it to work. So this gear should work. It meshes with the teeth on the other gear real well, and you know, I'll grease it up and it'll let me use it. We could do light work with it or whatever. But anyway, that's got that taken care of. I believe I've got everything cleaned up and degreased and everything, but now I'm going to go to work on these cases and try to get them cleaned up and looking as nice as I can. And I don't quite know how I'm going to go about that, but I will let you know as I figure that out. They've cleaned up, soaking in some degreaser and stuff, so I've got the bulk of it off, but I'm gonna have to see what I can do now. I'd really like to polish them, but I don't know if I'll get that far or not. I don't know if I can get them that nice. So we'll be back when I figure something out. Here we go for beginners or starters. I used the red Scotch-Brite cloth to clean this half of it up, and it's cleaning up pretty good. This one was the worst half, but this did have some of that on there. I'm finding that some of this is dirt and others of it's corrosion like that. So anyway, I'm going to do the second half with the Scotch-Brite, and then we will see what it's going to take to do the next step. Nothing else, I could leave it just like that and be happy with it. Well, there's that first round with the red Scotch-Brite pad. Did fairly good. I had to use a razor blade to scrape the white part of this corrosion off, but the Scotch-Brite's not penetrating or cutting through that. So my next step is going to be to take it over to my grinder, and I have a it's like a Scotch-Brite wheel that I'm going to use on the thing to see if that will actually smooth them up and make them a little more uniform. There we go. That's the roughest side right there's cleaned up with that Scotch-Brite wheel. Actually worked out pretty good. So we'll go do the next one, and we'll take it from there. There we go. That cleaned those things up nice. The only thing that it hasn't done is get the patina scratches out of it like that, and I'm okay with that. That's part of the history of the tool itself. So next thing I'm going to do is just get my polishing wheels out and compounds and polish the thing up to where it looks about as good as I can get it, and I'll be back after we get her polished. There we go. How do you like them apples, boys and girls? So we've kind of preserved the patina. The old scratch marks are still left in it, but we've got her polished up, all cleaned up, and everything looks nice and pretty. You can see a shadow right there of where the worst of the corrosion was, but I was not going to go after it because I really don't know how deep in there it goes. I don't know if that's just light pitting or if it's actually eaten in and discolored the metal, but I don't care. It looks nice, and it'll go great sitting on my shelf. So there we go. Now we'll be ready to start putting it back together. Okay, so we got the armature inside the coil, and we're got her all set in place here. I have got these bearings cleaned up good and greased. Everything else is greased, so we do spin in there like we're supposed to, I hope. So I think we'll put a little bit more grease on there. I want a lot of grease packed into it up in this part right here, because that's the way they did it at the factory. So let's see, one of the next things we'll have to do is get the brushes reassembled and put back in place. So they're rubbing on there, so I think we'll probably move that direction next. I think I'll do that. I'll get my grease packed in here, so I know I've got plenty of grease, and then we'll come back and show you what we've got. Alright, that was a little bit of a wrestling match, but we got the grease in there. In order to put these, those things, the brushes back together. So this whole assembly had to go together. First you got to stick the spring in, then you got to use something like this to pull the spring all the way back compressed. Then you have to hold it down here, put the wire in sideways and turn it a little bit. Then you got to put the brush in it. The brush has a pin that goes through the holder on the wire. You got to hold all that stuff together while you push it down in there and put that plastic screw in to hold it in place. So it's not super difficult, but it was one of those things that was not as simple as it could have been. Anyway, so that's got us assembled there with the main part of the motor. So now we've got to assemble a gearbox. And that's what we're going to do next. So we're all together there. I'm going to worry about the switch kind of towards the end, I think. So the next thing we got to do, I think I'll put our idler pulley in, this thing right here, and get it set up and working. So get the bearings on the ends of it and whatever else we have to do to get that set. There we go. Got that assembled now and in place with the two bearings mounted in there, and my little hand carved drive gear seems to be working. I like it. Alright, obviously it's not going to take a ton of torque by drilling big stuff, but could drill little holes in wood with it for sure. Alright, let's see. Next I've got to get the chuck and the main drive gear assembled. Get everything greased back up in here. My other bearing on. I have this bearing here, but I also have this 3-part thing here. These are the 2 outer pieces. I'll be back. Hate it when that happens. Oh well, back in the saddle again. So got all of our gearbox here. We got our idler gear in. We got our bearings on this main drive shaft here. That little thing that looks like 2 washers down there is actually 2 washers with a little bearing cage with 5 little ball bearings in it held in there. So I had to be careful to get that piece back in together, but really I think that's got everything put back together now, except we need to work on our wire and our switch. And so that's what I'll be chasing next here as I go about trying to figure this out. All right. Here we go. Got her all put back together and ready now to close this up. I trimmed a little bit off of the insulation and then stripped the wires back and used these butt connectors in there, crimp-on connectors, because like I've used them before in actual drills that I use in my work, and they work just fine, but I didn't want to try soldering this. It's kind of a pain. Anyway, the cord, it had been laid out on a floor when somebody had painted something in the house and was covered with paint splatter everywhere, so I took a while and scraped that off. Wiped it down with lacquer thinner so that we got a nice clean cord now, and we will get the other half back on this thing now and button it up, and we'll be ready to give her a trial run. So I think I'm ready to go. Just got to make sure that these little retainer deals here, I don't know if they're going to stay in there or if I'm going to have to actually put them on the bearings first. But anyway, we're going to get that flipped over there and get the screws back in it. All right, there she is. It actually went back together very well. Yeah, so I don't know what much else to tell you. It's time to try it out and see if it works. But man, that thing really turned out nice. Polished up good. Cord's actually in decent shape. It's got a little bit of a break right there, but I think for the sake of originality, I'm going to keep that and not try to do something there. I don't know, I might put some tape around it or something. But anyway, let's see if it works here. We'll get her plugged in. Well, no, not really. Really, I don't think, actually I really don't think this drill's got a lot of mileage on it as far as that goes. The brushes weren't worn very bad and everything inside looked like it was in good shape. I just think somebody tried to overdo it and stripped off that gear, and that was it. I don't think it was totally designed to do something quite as heavy as somebody was trying to do with it. But anyway, let's see what we got here. Da-da-da, the moment of truth. Here we go. ho, ho. It works. That's quite noisy. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be that way or if that maybe is our gear that we built in there that's making it that noisy or what it is. But the fact of the matter is it works now. And got the chuck loosened up so it works. We can put a drill in there if we need to. Now I have noticed that this is not a reversible drill. It's only runs in the forward direction. So I think that's probably a factor of how old the thing is, and it might be that it's a cheap one too. I still haven't looked to see if there's any information on that company. I've never heard of it, and I'm kind of a tool guy. I think I would have heard of it if it was something. So it may be one of those cheap off-brand drills. I don't know, but it's all right. What I really want to do is find out when it was made. And if I can find that out here in the next little bit, I'll pop back on here and let you know that. Just by the style of it, it seems like it's probably a 40s or 50s era, 1940s, 1950s era drill. Could be 60s, I don't know. I doubt if it's any newer than the 60s. But anyway, we will wrap this up. Let's see, there was one thing. It did have a trigger lock on it, which... yeah, that's working. It is missing the stabilizer handle out here, but that's common for most drills. All of mine are missing them too, I think, but I've got a dozen of them I could put with it, I think. Anyway, I will maybe throw in a before shot of it here if I can find one, maybe a little clip for a couple seconds to remind you what it looked like, but I'm happy with that. That goes really good in my antique tool collection. I actually have over here another small 3/8 drill that's probably from the same general time frame. It might be a little older, but one of these days I'll get it out and go through it. It actually works, but anyway, nice collection to go along with those things. So there you go. If you guys are enjoying this, I hope you'll take a few minutes and like and subscribe to the channel and enjoy some of the crazy things we do here at Crazy Dad's Garage. Have a great day. It's fun to do this with you.